Well, that got going quickly. I hadn't even had a chance to grab a camera before the fire took off. We have a good fire. It'll take a good hour and a half, maybe 2 hours before those coals are ready, but they'll get there. Hello. This is Paul Plays with Fire, and I'm Paul, and I'm going to play with fire. On today's episode, we're going to make pork chops with some foil, potatoes, peppers, and onions. That's been a long time favorite of mine, both the pork chops and the peppers and onions. So I hope you like it. I've already got, maybe you can hear, I've already got a fire started, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, so we're making grilled potatoes. I guess that's straight. We've got our fire brewing in the background. I've got a tasty beverage here. We've got our grilled potato ingredients, which are really just a couple of baked potatoes. Excuse me, just regular potatoes. Regular russet potatoes, uncooked. Pepper and an onion, and then a piece of foil to put it in. I'm sure many of you have done this before. This is nothing too spectacular, but I remember I've been doing this with my folks camping since I was a kid, making different kind of foil meat packages. And it was always fun as a kid because you could make whatever you wanted. Put whatever you want. My brother didn't like onions, so he didn't get no onions. I liked everything, so I got a lot of everything because I was a good eater. So I'll just cut the potatoes up into diced portions, small enough that they cook in a timely fashion. And you want them to all be about the same size too. I used to, my mom's recipe had adding quite a bit of water to the package. And I've seen some other recipes since then that also have that same, it's like you're just steaming the vegetables, and as an adult, I got to where I didn't even like a foil packet anymore because they were just too soggy, too wet. So I stopped putting water in, and it turns out a lot better. You just have to make sure you add plenty of oil. Now, another thing we used to do when I was a kid was add butter to them, but I found that olive oil has a higher smoke point and just in general cooks better. I did wash all these vegetables ahead of time, just so you know. Once again, just loosely chopped. Doesn't have to be real big because they do kind of fall apart when they cook up, especially if you get too fine a dice on them, then they really do fall apart. It's also a good place to use up vegetables that are maybe heading south a little bit. Maybe you wouldn't serve them as fresh vegetables, but you'd certainly put them in a foil packet and throw them on a fire. There's so many ways to cut an onion. I'm not going to go into that today, but someday I will. My current favorite, especially in a very small cut, is to leave the roots on and then cut it in half right along the root line, and then dice it up as small or as big as you want. In this case, we don't want it too small, so we'll leave it pretty big and just make those chunks pretty good sized. But you can get an onion really, really fine if you want to that way. And I'm not a chef. I just like to cook. I like to cook because I like to eat. One cut around the middle, a few cuts down the side, and then as big or small as you want. In this case, I'm doing about 3 hunks. And I don't even try and break them up very much. They'll fall apart later on. So I'll bring our foil packet over here front and center. Kind of mix it up a little bit. Back in there. Put a little oil on them. That's olive oil. Nothing fancy, just regular old olive oil. Generous dosing of salt and pepper. Remember, this is your one and only chance to season them too, so until you're eating them. So I'm going to put a little more olive oil on too, just to prevent burning on the fire. Since we are dealing with live fire here, since this is Paul Plays with Fire after all. And then fold it across the top to seal it up pretty good, and then bring up the ends. There you go, nice foil packet. And we'll always cook this seam side up so that the olive oil doesn't drain out of it. Next up are Iowa chops. Iowa chops they're called America's Cut now, but they're pork chops that have been around since I was a kid. We called them Iowa chops because they were about an inch thick and about an 8-ounce pork chop. Used to be you could get them bone in. Now it's mostly in the health conscious days. People mostly serve them as boneless, but it's a 1 inch thick or inch and a half thick. I don't know how thick. I should look into that. Maybe it's an inch and a half thick, and they're boneless, and they're in Iowa where this is being filmed. They're pretty cheap because we have more pigs than we do people right now. So here we go. I'll show you how to prepare those. Now this one's pretty simple. You just separate the Iowa chops. Keep my paper towel handy here. Put a little salt and pepper on both sides. Not that side. And this is basically a dry brine. Flip them over. And do it again. And I know you're supposed to do all the sides and all of that. 2 sides is enough for me. It does a really good job. And it really makes a difference too. Try one with a salt and pepper brine, one without, and you will definitely notice a difference. That's all there is to it. Then now they're ready to sit. After they sat for 15 minutes or so, they're ready to go on the fire. Now we're going to try and get the fire ready to go. We're going to throw the foil packets right straight on the coals on the edge of the fire. But I'm going to cheat a little bit today and use this old grill I have from a Weber Mini to cook the meat. And I'm going to try and just find a happy medium spot, a Goldilocks spot where it's not too cold and not too warm. Also got to leave some coals aside for my foil packet. Got to show them some heat and some love. There, that'll work. There, right in there. That'll be the hot spot, that'll be the cold spot. Let's get those pork chops going. There are the pork chops after they've been brining for a little bit. You can see how the moisture has really come to the surface as they've absorbed the brine and the salt goes into the meat. That's a good thing. On a regular grill, these might take 20 minutes. They might take 40 minutes. Out here, you never know because of the way live fire works. I think I'll just tuck that right in there. There you go. Then I'll flip that end for end in about 10-15 minutes or so. Well, things are coming along nicely. The pork chops may be a little darker than I'd hoped, but you know, that's what we call this, learning to cook with fire, and not everything you ever need to know about cooking with fire, because it's different every single time. But the peppers and onions and potatoes are starting to smell really good also. I've moved the grilled potatoes and peppers and onions, the foil packet, up onto the grill to try and get it to finish up a little bit. It was getting a little cool on the side, and we were going to be here until after dark if I left it where it was. So hopefully we should be done here without too much longer. Well, it is time to eat. Yeah, let's see if we can pull this off without the magic of television being needed. I tried on potatoes earlier and they were delicious. They're bubbling and hot now. The pork chops look great. So here we go, it's dinner time. And I think the dog's ready too. Are you ready for some food, Carly? We've got our 2 pork chops here, which is more than I can eat, but not more than the dog and I can eat. And we've got our wonderful grilled potatoes and peppers and onions in a nice bed of olive oil. I should have brought a spoon with me, and maybe something to wipe off that plate. Yuck. Good thing I noticed that before I started eating or putting food on it. Oh well, life in the outdoors. Carly, next time I should bring a spoon. There, that's enough to get started. So here we go. A little bit of salt and pepper. Let's dig in. Oh, that looks good. Oh. Yum, that is so good. That is so good. The wood smoke adds so much flavor to it. Something about the wood smoke and the fat and the salt is just very primal. It's so delicious. And the grilled potatoes are perfect. One more bite. Well, thank you so much for showing up. This is Paul Plays with Fire, and we played with fire tonight. Good night.